Hello, Chris from My Stamp Lady. I'm so glad you're here to stamp with me today. I am stamping with this Special Reason bundle, and it is found in the Occasions catalog, and you can find it on page 42. And this is the Occasions catalog, and if you have purchased from me in the last year, you should have received it in the mail. If you didn't, let me know, and if you're interested in receiving a copy, go to mystamplady.com and request a catalog. So this comes with this beautiful flower set and the stylish stems, thinlets or framelets. Let's see, they call it framelets dies. I like this set because they have some really unique feature that this detailed flower and this other one, they don't cut out the entire flower. They leave it in a piece, and you'll see how I do that in this card. Okay, so to start with, I have a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I am using these detailed framelets of the flowers, and I'm just going to place them like this. This is where I want them cut out, and it's going to just cut out the design of it and not cut them out of the flower or out of the paper. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's start with my magnetic platform, my acrylic plate. I like to make sure that my acrylic plate is not sticking up from my magnetic platform. You may have a little more difficulty if it does have some space in between there. So I always make sure that it's curved into the plate or the platform. Okay, so let's place those two dies on there, and then in another acrylic plate, and I'll run that through the Big Shot. Once you've removed that die and all of the little pieces that come out when that die is run through, you end up with little framed openings like this. So I want to add some color behind my flowers, and I'm going to do that with a couple of sponged pieces. Okay, so I'm going to sponge these two pieces of Whisper White cardstock, and then they'll go on the background and show up some different colors. So my larger one, I am bringing in Flirty Flamingo and Blushing Bride. And so I will start with the Blushing Bride. Let's start this here. And I'm just going to sponge on ink until I get the color or the darkness that I want. On the other side, let's do some Flirty Flamingo. When I'm blending my ink together like this, I like to go back in along that edge and do it a couple of times just to blend out, just to get those colors to match really nicely. Okay, so I have that color. Now I'll put away these. Okay, so for my other flower, I'm going to be using Wisteria Wonder and Perfect Plum. And we will just... Okay, so there are my two blended pieces. I'm going from Blushing Bride to Flirty Flamingo, and let's see, Perfect Plum to Wisteria Wonder. Then I'm taking back in this piece here, and with a little bit of Sweet Sugar Plum, I am going to go over the center of that flower, both of them with a little bit of Sweet Sugar Plum. Now my next step is to put adhesive around the back side of these flowers. And I might have to do a little bit of trimming to get the papers to the sponge papers to sit how I want them to sit. Okay, so flip it back over. And let's see, I want this one to be like right in there. And I'll trim that down a little bit. I want it to go into the other flower and over the background, so if you want to, you can just cut it closer to the size you exactly need. I like doing this because then I can pick a little bit more, kind of make a general background and then kind of pick where I want it. Okay, let's do the same with the other flower. Placing that here. So I have a ombre flower that goes from lighter to darker. So now I'm going to flip that back over, add adhesive to the back side here, and I'm just going to mount this onto a piece of Pear Pizzazz cardstock as a mat. Get that out of the way. So now you have your front with the ombre flowers, and then your back has it all covered up with those little pieces tucked right in between. Okay, I'm going to set this aside for a moment, and let's pull in. We need some leaves. and a flower. So I'm going to take this flower here and stamp that up in Sweet Sugar Plum. Grab that back in here. I'll stamp that. And then let's bring in the Pear Pizzazz. And we need 2 large leaves. Okay, and then I need 1 small leaf. Okay, with the Big Shot, I have my magnetic platform. I have my acrylic plate. And now I'm going to grab those dies that coordinate with these pieces. So I have 2 leaves, larger leaves, a smaller leaf, and put the coordinating dies around those. An additional acrylic plate, and I'll run that through the Big Shot. So here's my pieces, and now I'll pull back in. Let's see, we'll place those 2 leaves down over here on this side, and oops, covered up my small leaf. We'll put that one in about right there, and let's put the flower, the Sweet Sugar Plum flower, about there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use adhesive and just place those down. Next, I'm adding a length of linen thread, so we'll wrap that around twice and then tie a bow around, and I'm going to leave it loose so that I can adjust the bow when I get my sentiment how I want it and positioned where. So if you just wrap it around, tie it, you are able to kind of move it after you get your next piece done. So I'm going to leave that for now, but I do have my linen thread ready to go. For my sentiment, I am taking this smaller flower that I used earlier. I am inking that up with Flirty Flamingo. However, I'm going to stamp it off and then get a lighter flower here on my Whisper White cardstock. Then with the sentiment that says there's no special reason for this card, and there's actually a coordinating there's a coordinating greeting that you can use on the inside that says, except to let you know how special you are. So I'm just going to stamp this in Tuxedo Black right over that flower. Now I went a little crooked, but that doesn't really matter because I'm going to be cutting it out with a die. So I have my magnetic platform, my acrylic plate, my sentiment. There are 2 of these frame pieces, and for the white sentiment I'm going to use the larger one. So I'm just going to line this up so that my sentiment is straight like that and run that through the Big Shot. Now I want to create a little frame to go around that sentiment, so I have a piece of Sweet Sugar Plum cardstock, and I'm going to use both of the frames and line those up over my magnetic platform, centering them, and so they'll both cut at the same time, and you'll see I'll get a nice little frame. Okay, so then when you remove those dies, you have a little frame like this, and I'm going to take in my fine tip glue pen and just add a little bit of glue around the edge here. Okay, and then I can just place that around the edge of my sentiment piece. And so now you have a little framed piece. Okay, I'm going to pull back in that card front and figure out where I want that. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Leave that linen thread a little bit loose, and then if you push and pull, so I'm pulling with this thumb, pushing with this thumb, I can move it a little bit, and then I can figure that's where I want that to go. So we'll grab a couple of dimensionals, place those down, and then it will be popped up around that, linen thread. So let's trim off this excess there, and I have a piece of 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of Whisper White, the thick Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to use that as my card base. Use some fast fuse and place that down. Oops, that kind of went crooked there, but that's okay. And then just to finish off this card, I'm going to use a few of the silver sequins. So let's place those in and around this card front. I'll use a little bit of the fine tip glue to hold those down. Fine tip glue you could use just a few seconds to set up. It doesn't take long, but it does take a tiny bit of time. I'll put that down there. Now you have a fun kind of all occasion or no just because card to send off to somebody using the Special Reasons stamp set and the Stylish Stems framelits that come in this bundle. If you have any questions about what I've done, don't hesitate to contact me, Chris, at mystamplady.com, and all of the supplies are available in my online store at shopwithmystamplady.com. Thanks for stamping with me today.